used the 30 years of lifespan of a death row inmate to save the life of Mr. Donovan Sr., who had terminal cancer. The Donovan family gave me a reward of $100 million. Turning around, his son Damien razed my Taoist temple to the ground. He tied me in the courtyard, forcing me to watch the orphan children I adopted being trampled into the mud. A canceled check slammed into my face, and he laughed maniacally. My sister has been in a coma for 10 years. Why didn't you save her? Aren't you able to exchange lives? Go save her. He knew full well that my once-a-month life exchange opportunity had just been used on his father. In the end, my hands and feet were broken, and I was burned alive in the temple. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day the Donovan family sent someone to invite me. This time, I calmly hung up the phone and dialed the number of his mortal enemy, the Sterling family. I heard Mrs. Sterling is also seriously ill? I can let her live another 30 years. The phone vibrated in my palm, the 4 words Donovan family butler flashing on the screen. In the previous life, it was this phone call that dragged me into hell. I didn't answer it, letting it ring until it automatically hung up. My fingertips swiped across the contacts list, and I found a number I hadn't contacted for a long time and dialed it. Mr. Julian, this is Serafina. The man on the other end of the phone had a low voice, with a hint of wariness of a superior. Master Serafina of the Qingfeng Temple? It's me. I looked at the light rain falling outside the window, my tone calm and unwavering. I heard Mrs. Sterling is also seriously ill. I can let her live another 30 years. Julian was silent for a moment. Conditions. I want the Donovan family to suffer eternal damnation. He chuckled lightly. Master Serafina, what a big appetite. Mr. Donovan Sr. is also terminally ill, and the Donovan family is also looking for me. Mr. Julian should have heard of my abilities. Whoever gets me first wins. Damien is petty and vindictive. Aren't you afraid of going against him? Before my eyes flashed the scene of Qingfeng Temple being swallowed by flames, the children's terrified cries, and Damien's twisted, crazy face. What I'm afraid of is that they'll die too late. After hanging up the phone, I sat quietly in the temple, waiting for fate to knock on the door again. In less than half an hour, a black car stopped at the entrance of the temple. The person who came down was not the Donovan family butler, but the heir apparent of the Donovan family, Damien. He was wearing a black suit, tall and straight, with sharp eyebrows and eyes, but in the eyes that looked at me, seethed the boundless hatred I was so familiar with. He was reborn too. This realization made my heart sink sharply, and then a twisted pleasure surged up. That's great. It saves me the trouble of explaining it again. This way he can watch himself head towards destruction step by step in his consciousness. Serafina. Damien stepped onto the stone steps, his voice squeezed out from between his teeth. Where's my sister? Behind me, several young Taoist children poked their heads out, curiously looking at this menacing man. I protected them behind me and said lightly, Ms. Lila has already passed away. Please accept my condolences. You're talking nonsense. Damien flew into a rage, rushed forward in one stride, and grabbed my wrist. Where did you hide her? My wrist was hurting from his grip, and my bones were cracking. I didn't struggle, just looked at him coldly. Damien, you and we've both lived again. Have you forgotten the ending of the last life? Your sister died long ago. I used my own cultivation at a great cost to give her a last burst of life. But you raised my temple, injured my children, and finally burned me alive. With each sentence I said, Damien's face became more and more unsightly. The hatred in his eyes turned into surprise and uncertainty. Do you think I'd be foolish enough to save a thankless person again, only to end up with my whole family dying tragically? Impossible. Damien murmured to himself, seemingly unable to accept this fact. Lila told me herself that you kidnapped her and wanted to cheat our family's money. He suddenly raised his head, his eyes turning fierce again. You're lying. You want to sow discord between Lila and me. Serafina, you have a truly vicious heart. Truly the most stupid person under heaven, stupid enough to pull feces in the outhouse facing inward. I was too lazy to waste any more words with him and shook off his hand forcefully. Believe it or not, Damien, your sister's life and death have nothing to do with me. and neither does yours. You dare curse me? Enraged by my words, he raised his hand to strike. I didn't dodge, meeting his gaze directly. His palm froze in midair, ultimately not landing. Because he also remembered. In the previous life, before I died, I had cursed him. With my soul as a sacrifice, I curse you, Damien, and those closest and dearest to you. Connected in fate, life and death intertwined. His sister's fate was already bound to his. If his sister died, he wouldn't survive either. Damien's hands were trembling. He glared at me, as if he wanted to carve 2 holes in my face. What exactly do you want? His voice was hoarse. Simple. I took a step back, creating distance between us. Stay away from my clear breeze temple. Stay away from my children. You take your wide road, I'll cross my narrow bridge, and from now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Impossible, he refused sharply. You must save Lila. I can't save her. I repeated. The life-swapping technique can only be used once a month. In the previous life, I already used it on your father, and in this life, I will not use it for the Donovan family again. You saved my father. Why can't you save my sister? In your eyes, isn't my sister's life a life too? He questioned, as if he were going mad. What a ridiculous question. In the previous life, he had asked the same thing. I looked at him and suddenly smiled. Yes, in my eyes, the lives of everyone in the Donovan family are as worthless as weeds. Damien's eyes instantly turned red, not with sadness, but with extreme anger. He pointed his finger at my nose, saying each word clearly. Good, very good. Serafina, you'll regret this. Having said that, he turned and left. Watching his resolute back, I didn't feel the slightest bit of relief. I knew that with Damien's stubbornness and madness, he would never let it go easily. Sure enough, the next day, a group of thugs of unknown origin rushed into the temple. They smashed everything they saw, muttering and cursing, saying that we had occupied their land. The children were so scared they cried loudly. I stood in the center of the main hall, watching everything with cold eyes. The leader, Spike, walked up to me, took out a forged land deed, and waved it in front of my eyes. Smelly Taoist nun, this mountain is ours now. If you know what's good for you, get out of here quickly, or don't blame us brothers for being impolite. I recognized him. In the previous life, he was the one who brought people to set fire to the temple. Did Damien send you? I asked. Spike was stunned for a moment, then laughed arrogantly. What if he did? The young master ordered us to entertain you properly. He emphasized the word entertain heavily. I lowered my eyes, concealing the murderous intent in their depths. Get out. Spike's smile froze. What did you say? He cleaned out his ears, thinking he had misheard. I said get out. I raised my head, my voice not loud, but with an undeniable coldness. Hey, you don't know what's good for you, do you? Spike was enraged, and with a wave of his hand he said, Brothers, smash it. Raise this place to the ground. The group clamored, raising the sticks in their hands, about to smash the precious scriptures and Dharma instruments. Stop. I shouted sharply, and at the same time took out 3 copper coins from my sleeve, flicking them with my fingers. The copper coins flew out in a triangular formation, accurately hitting the knees of the 3 people charging in the front. The 3 screamed and knelt on the ground simultaneously. The rest were dumbfounded. Spike's expression also changed, and he pointed at me, saying in a threatening voice, You dare to hit us? If you don't get out now, it won't be as simple as kneeling. My gaze swept over each of them. I will make sure you can't stand up again. My eyes were too cold, as if looking at a group of dead objects. They were stunned by me, and for a moment, no one dared to step forward. Just then, Damien's voice came from outside the Taoist temple. Master Serafina has quite the prestige. He strolled in, followed by 2 bodyguards in black suits. He glanced at the thugs kneeling on the ground, then looked at me, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Looks like I underestimated you. But do you think you alone can protect this entire temple full of burdens? My heart sank. He really was going to use the children to threaten me. Damien, they're innocent. My voice was strained. Innocent. He laughed even harder. Was Lila innocent? She's been lying in a hospital bed for 10 years, like a living dead person. Where was her innocence? I'll ask you one last time. Will you save her or not? His eyes were filled with fanatical obsession. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I can't save her. Good. He nodded, the smile instantly vanishing from his face, replaced by an icy indifference. He gave the bodyguards a look. One of the bodyguards immediately stepped forward and grabbed the closest Taoist child. The youngest one, Noah. No. My eyes were about to split, and I wanted to rush over, but another bodyguard blocked me tightly. Noah was only 6 years old, trembling with fear, tears welling up in his eyes, but he stubbornly bit his lip, not letting himself cry out. Serafina, look, what a lovely child. Damien walked up to Noah, reached out his hand, and patted his face like he was teasing a kitten or puppy. If you keep being stubborn, I don't know what my men will do to this child. Damien, let him go. I'm the one you have a grudge against. It has nothing to do with the children. I struggled frantically, but the bodyguard was incredibly strong, and I couldn't break free at all. Nothing to do with it? Damien asked as if he heard the biggest joke in the world. You treat them like your own children, so they have everything to do with me. He grabbed Noah's wrist and slowly applied pressure. Ah! Noah finally couldn't hold back and cried out in pain. The crisp sound of a bone breaking echoed in the empty hall, especially harsh. My mind went blank. I'll save. I'll save. I heard my voice trembling with a sob. I promise you, I'll save Lila. Let him go. Damien released his hand, and Noah collapsed softly to the ground, hugging his deformed wrist, weeping silently in pain. Should have done this earlier. Damien looked down at me, his eyes full of the victor's triumph. You think I want to save her? My eyes were bloodshot, and I squeezed the words out from between my teeth, one by one. Damien, you will pay for what you've done today. I'll be waiting. He shrugged, not caring at all. Now let's begin. I want to see you save Lila with my own eyes. Saving a life requires ritual implements and sacrifices. There's nothing here. What do you need? I'll have people prepare it immediately. A life-bearing plate, a live black dog, 3 bowls of rootless water, and... I paused. A person who voluntarily sacrifices 30 years of their life. In my previous life, I used a death row inmate. In this life, the Donovan family has immense power. Finding someone willing will be easy. Damien frowned after hearing this. What is a life-bearing plate? It's my sex-sacred artifact, a ritual implement used to carry lifespan. I explained. Without it, the life-saving transfer can't be performed. Where is it? I hid it. I stared into his eyes. Only I know where it is. This was my last bargaining chip. As long as the life-bearing plate was still in my hands, I would still have a sliver of control. Damien stared at me intently, as if trying to see through me. After a long while he laughed. Serafina, you're still trying to play tricks on me. He suddenly raised his foot, and walked towards the ancestral statue enshrined in the hall. The statue was carved from a single piece of agarwood, the foundation of my sex inheritance. Guess what, if I smash it, will your ancestors crawl out of the ground to find me? He raised his foot, ready to kick down. Don't. The mandate plate is in the secret compartment behind the statue. Damien's foot stopped in midair. He looked back at me, smiling like a triumphant devil. I closed my eyes, filled with humiliation. Following my instructions, the bodyguard indeed found a heavy rosewood box behind the statue. Damien took the box and opened it. Inside lay a palm-sized disc made of an unknown metal, engraved with intricate and ancient runes, the mandate plate. This is the thing. He tossed it in his hand, his tone contemptuous. I didn't answer. He threw the mandate plate to the bodyguard, then looked at me. Okay, the thing is found, can we start now? What about the black dog and the pure water? They'll be here right away. As soon as he finished speaking, servants came in carrying a cage and several buckets. Inside the cage, a black dog trembled. What about the sacrifice? I continued to ask. Isn't it right here? Damien pointed to the group of local bullies on the ground who hadn't left yet. They are all willing. Spike and the others turned pale and waved their hands repeatedly. No, we are not willing. Damien snorted coldly. 1 million per person, are you in? Those people immediately changed their expressions and shouted to be the first. Yes, I'm in. People die for wealth, birds die for food. Everything was ready. Damien's eyes became hot and eager. Start quickly. I took a deep breath, walked to the center of the hall, and took the mandate plate handed by the bodyguard. The cold touch came from my fingertips, but my heart was colder than it. I placed the mandate plate on the ground, and asked the bodyguard to drip the black dog's blood into the center of the plate. Then I began to chant. As the chanting began, the runes on the mandate plate lit up one by one, emitting a faint red light. The air in the entire hall seemed to freeze. Damien held his breath, staring intently at the mandate plate. I could feel an invisible force gathering, preparing to tear through space and extract the lifespan of the chosen gangster. Just then, I suddenly stopped chanting. The light on the mandate plate instantly dimmed. What's going on? Damien asked sharply. I raised my head, looked at him, and smiled miserably. Damien, I lied to you. The art of life swapping has a huge price. The last time I saved your father, I exhausted half of my cultivation. Within 3 years, I cannot perform the ritual again. I am just an ordinary Taoist priest now. What do you mean? Damien's face instantly turned livid. What I mean is, I can't save your sister. My voice was very soft, but every word was clear. She is doomed. So are you. You tricked me. Damien's roar echoed throughout the Taoist temple. He rushed up and kicked me in the chest. My whole body flew out, crashing heavily against a pillar, a sweet taste in my throat, and I spat out a mouthful of blood. Still not appeased, he picked up the mandate plate from the ground and raised it high. Didn't you say this is a sacred object? I will destroy it today. He used all his strength to smash the mandate plate hard onto the ground. Don't. I used my last strength and roared out. There was only a crisp clang sound. The incredibly hard mandate plate shattered in the middle, splitting into 2 halves. The runes on it completely extinguished, turning it into a piece of scrap metal. My world, along with that crisp sound, completely collapsed, plunging into boundless darkness. Just as my consciousness was about to dissipate, a huge roar came from above. It was the sound of a helicopter. A whirlwind swept up the dust and fallen leaves from the ground, making it impossible to open one's eyes. A black private plane landed in the narrow open space in front of the Taoist temple, in an extremely arrogant manner. The cabin door opened and Julian walked out. Behind him followed a dozen well-trained bodyguards, their aura powerful enough to instantly suppress Damien's people. He immediately saw me lying in a pool of blood, and the shattered mandate plate. Julian's face instantly darkened. He quickly walked to my side, squatted down and carefully helped me up. I'm late. There was a hint of guilt in his voice. I shook my head, coughed up a mouthful of blood, pointed to the fragments on the ground, and smiled miserably. The mandate plate is destroyed. It's okay. Julian took off his suit jacket and draped it over me, his eyes firm. It's good that you're all right. As long as you're here, there's a way. His words were like a ray of light, shining into my lifeless heart. Yes, as long as I'm still alive, there's still hope. Damien looked at the suddenly appearing Julian, his face changing again and again. Julian? What are you doing here? Do I need to report to you what I'm doing? Damien, you dare to touch my people, you're quite bold. Your people? Damien seemed to have heard a joke. Since when has she become your person? From now on. Julian shielded me behind him. Master Serafina, and everyone in Qingfeng Temple, are all protected by me, the Sterling family. The bodyguards he brought immediately stepped forward, protecting the injured Noah and the other children, while simultaneously controlling the group of thugs and Damien's 2 bodyguards. The situation instantly reversed. Damien's face was extremely ugly. Julian, this is a private matter between me and her, don't meddle in it. Your private matter is flattening the Taoist temple, hurting the children, and forcing the Taoist master to her death. Julian sneered. Damien, your upbringing is as bad as ever. I. Julian interrupted him. I'm putting my word here today. Within 3 days, you will kneel down and beg Master Serafina. Beg her? Damien laughed angrily. Me kneeling down to beg this liar? Julian, has a donkey kicked your head? Let's make a bet, how about it? I poked my head out from behind Julian, my voice weak, but my eyes were astonishingly bright. Bet on what? Bet on whether I can save Mrs. Sterling. I looked at him, saying each word clearly. If I win, you will kneel at the gate of Qingfeng Temple in front of the entire city, kowtowing 100 times to atone for what you did today. What if you lose? I'll let you dispose of me. Good. Damien agreed without thinking. I'll give you 3 days. If you can't save her in 3 days, I'll have you and your burdens buried with your broken Taoist temple. Julian sent people to take me and the children to a private hospital under his name. Noah's hand bone was reconnected, but the doctor said that there might be sequelae. I sat by the hospital bed, looking at his little hand wrapped in bandages. My heart was cut like a knife. I'm sorry, Noah. The master is useless and couldn't protect you. Noah shook his head and comforted me instead. Master, don't cry, Noah doesn't hurt. My tears could no longer be held back and burst out. Julian silently handed me a tissue. Is there really no way to repair the mandate plate? He asked. I wiped away my tears and shook my head. The mandate plate is the crystallization of the lifeblood of the successive masters of my sect. Once it is damaged, its divine power dissipates, and it can no longer be used. Then, my grandmother, she... A trace of worry flashed in Julian's eyes. Don't worry. I looked at him, my eyes regaining their determination. I have other ways. What way? Blood sacrifice for life. Julian's face changed. Coming from a family of Xuanxue, he had naturally heard of this forbidden technique. You want to use your own lifespan to exchange. His voice was strained. No way. That's too risky. It's the only way, I said with a bitter smile. The fate plate is gone. I can't rely on external forces anymore. I can only fill it with my own life. Trading 30 years of life, what? What price will you pay? 10 years. I held up one finger. Using 10 years of my lifespan, to exchange for 30 years of health and peace for Mrs. Sterling. Julian's breath hitched. He stared at me, his eyes filled with turbulent emotions, shock, pity, and a trace of indescribable complex emotions. Is it worth it? He asked. There's no such thing as worth it or not. I turned my face away, looking out the window. I just want Damien to die. For that purpose, let alone 10 years, I would spare no effort to exchange even the rest of my life. Julian was silent. After a long while, he finally spoke. What do you need me to do? Prepare an absolutely quiet room, a bowl of your heart blood, and leave the rest to me. 2 days later, the most luxurious hotel in Beijing was hosting a charity gala. Celebrities gathered, stars shone brightly. Damien, as the heir to the Donovan family, was naturally on the invitation list. He held a wine glass, mingling among the guests, in high spirits, seemingly having forgotten the embarrassment in the Taoist temple 2 days ago. In his opinion, he was sure to win that bet. Serafina, without that broken plate, was just a useless waste. How could she save a dying person who had received 3 critical condition notices from the hospital? Once tonight was over, he would make that reckless woman pay a bloody price. Just then, a commotion came from the entrance of the ballroom. Everyone turned their heads. Julian, supporting a vigorous, rosy-cheeked old lady, slowly walked in. The old lady was wearing a dark red, gold-embroidered cheongsam. Her hair combed meticulously, although full of silver hair, but her eyes were bright and piercing, not like a patient at all. Isn't that the Sterling family's matriarch? I heard she was on her deathbed. Yes, a while ago I heard she was in emergency care. How come she looks even more energetic than me today? Could it be that the Sterling family found a stand-in to stabilize the stock price? The guests whispered among themselves. The smile on Damien's face also froze at the corner of his mouth. He stared intently at the old lady, unable to believe his eyes. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Mrs. Sterling had the same disease as his father, terminal cancer, which had spread throughout her body, and there was no cure. How could she become like a normal person in just 2 days? It must be Julian's trick. He was about to step forward to expose the scam, but he saw that Julian was also followed by someone. The person was wearing a simple white dress. Her long hair was draped over her shoulders. Her face was not made up, but she was so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off her. It was Serafina. Damien's pupils shrank sharply. This woman, she dared to appear in front of him. At this time, Julian had helped the old lady to the center of the ballroom. He picked up the microphone and said with a smile to everyone, Thank you to all the guests for attending tonight. Taking this opportunity, I would like to introduce to you a benefactor who has given the Sterling family a new lease on life. He turned sideways, letting me stand in front. This is the abbot of Qingfeng Temple, Miss Serafina. It was Master Serafina who helped my mother recover and be reborn. The whole place erupted. Everyone's eyes focused on me, with curiosity, investigation, but more of disbelief. What a joke. Just her? A mystical Taoist? Probably some charlatan who tricked the Sterling family, right? Damien even laughed out loud. He stepped forward, snatched the microphone from Julian's hand, and faced me with a face full of ridicule. Master Serafina? I think she's more like a plague god. Don't let this woman fool you. She's a complete fraud. Just a few days ago she swore to me she couldn't save anyone. And now she's here putting on an act. He pointed at Mrs. Sterling and said to the crowd, "And that old lady, she's probably an actress they hired, just to help her put on this show." As soon as he finished speaking, Mrs. Sterling's face turned cold. "Impudent," the old woman rebuked with a strong voice. "Donovan family brat, is that how your father taught you to speak to your elders?" Damien was choked by her words, his face flushed red. Still not giving up, he reached out to grab the old woman's face, wanting to prove she was wearing a skin mask. Julian quickly stopped him. "Damien, haven't you made enough of a scene?" "Me making a scene?" Damien pointed at me like a madman. "It's this woman who's playing us all. I don't believe it. I don't believe a single word." "You don't believe it?" A clear child's voice suddenly rang out from the side. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a boy wearing a small white Taoist robe, with a cast on his arm, who had walked to my side unnoticed. It was Noah. He looked up at Damien, his large, clear eyes showing no fear, only cold hatred. "Then look at me. Am I real or fake?" Damien froze when he saw Noah. He remembered this child. He remembered personally crushing his wrist. The sensation of bone breaking still lingered on his fingertips. But now, apart from the cast on his arm, the child's face showed no signs of pain. Instead, it radiated a composure and calmness far beyond his age. This was impossible? "Damien! You scoundrel!" A shrill scream interrupted Damien's shock. A woman dressed in luxurious clothes, but with a haggard expression, stumbled out of the crowd and threw herself in front of Damien, raising her hand and giving him a resounding slap. "Mom, why are you hitting me?" Damien was stunned. The person was Damien's mother, Mrs. Donovan. "Hit you? I wish I could beat you to death." Mrs. Donovan cried, gasping for breath. "Do you even know what you've done?" She threw a document out of her bag, hitting Damien hard in the face. "Look at this yourself. This is Lila's latest medical report. And this." She then took out another yellowed ancient book. "This is something passed down in our family for generations. It's written clearly on it." Damien blankly picked up the report, and then opened the ancient book. When he saw the contents, he was struck as if by lightning, his face instantly turning as white as paper. "Non. Impossible. This is impossible." He staggered backward, shaking his head incessantly, his eyes filled with horror and collapse. "What's impossible?" Mrs. Donovan beat him while crying. "It's written that when you had the car accident, Lila begged the old Taoist priest at the temple to use the forbidden technique, life-sharing curse, to pull you back from the brink of death. From that day on, you and your sister's lives were tied together. If she lives, you live. If she dies, you'll be buried with her. Master Serafina saved your father by using the life-switching technique, which is a righteous profound method that broke the balance of the curse between you and Lila. Lila's life force was absorbed by your father, which is why she was running out of life. And you fool, not only are you ungrateful, but you went and smashed the Taoist temple, injured their child, and destroyed their life-saving magical artifact. Now look what happened. Master Serafina can no longer use righteous methods to save people, so she can only resort to forbidden techniques, using her own lifespan to save Mrs. Sterling. The backlash of this curse all fell on you, who had a conflict with her." Mrs. Donovan became more and more agitated. She grabbed a silver plate from the table and used it as a mirror, shoving it hard in front of Damien. "Look at yourself. What kind of ghost do you look like now?" The mirror reflected a bloodless face. The eye sockets were deep, the lips were purple, and the face was covered with dense gray-black lines, like the corpse spots that appear when a corpse begins to rot. That was not the face of a living person at all. Damien let out a terrified scream, and the mirror in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. He finally understood why I looked at him with that kind of gaze after I was reborn. It wasn't ridicule, it was pity. Pity for a poor wretch about to be scattered into nothingness. He finally understood why I said before I died in my previous life that I would make him and his closest loved ones be connected in life and death, to share their fate together. I wasn't casting a curse. I was merely stating a bloody fact, one he created himself. No. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Damien completely broke down. As if grasping at the last straw, he scrambled to my feet and clung tightly to my leg. Master Serafina. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please save me. As long as you're willing to save me, I'll do anything. I'll kowtow to you. I'll give you all the Donovan family's property. As he spoke, he really started to kowtow. Thump, thump, thump. His forehead was soon broken, and blood flowed down his cheeks, mixing with the livid spots on his face, making him look even more horrifying. The guests in the banquet hall were long speechless, shocked by this scene comparable to a fantasy film. Julian frowned, stepped forward, kicked Damien away, and shielded me behind him. Get away, don't touch her. I looked down, coldly watching Damien, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog. Save you. I chuckled softly. Damien, what makes you think you deserve to be saved? He was momentarily speechless. You flattened my temple and destroyed my ancestral shrine. How do we settle this debt? You injured my child, leaving him disabled at such a young age. How do we settle this debt? You destroyed my destiny plate, cut off my sex inheritance, and forced me to expend my lifespan to save people. How should we settle this debt? With each question I asked, Damien's face became paler. In the end, he was ashen-faced, shaking like a leaf. I'll compensate. I'll compensate you with everything. Compensate? I laughed as if I had heard the biggest joke in the world. Are some things you can compensate for? You caused me to lose 10 years of my lifespan. What will you use to compensate for that? Your life? But your life is now worthless. My words were like the sharpest blade, completely severing Damien's last hope. The pleading and fear on his face were instantly replaced by despair and madness. If you won't save me, I'll drag you down with me. He suddenly jumped up from the ground, pulled out a dagger from his arms, and stabbed it towards my heart. Everything happened too fast. Julian and the bodyguards didn't have time to react. Just as the tip of the knife was about to pierce my body, a figure suddenly rushed over and stood in front of me. It was Mrs. Donovan. With a thud, the dagger pierced deeply into her abdomen. Mom! Damien's movements froze. He looked at his mother in disbelief, watching the blood constantly gushing out of her abdomen. Xiaoya. Mrs. Donovan grabbed his hand, blood flowing from the corner of her mouth, but with a relieved smile on her face. Don't. Keep making mistakes. After speaking, her body went limp and she fell down. No, Mom. Damien let out a heart-wrenching cry. He dropped the dagger, picked up his mother, and rushed out like a madman. Call an ambulance. Quickly call an ambulance. However, it was all too late. That night, Mrs. Donovan died from excessive blood loss despite all efforts to save her. And Damien, after crying with his mother's body for an entire night, was found turned into a puddle of black water the next morning, completely disappearing from this world. The shared fate curse had finally completed its final mission. I never saw Damien again. I only heard about his ending from Julian later. I didn't feel anything. It was only deserved. The Donovan family fell. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The Sterling family swallowed up most of the Donovan family's assets without much effort. Julian gave me a black card with a number I couldn't count. The rebuilding of the Taoist temple, the upbringing and education of the children, will all be the responsibility of the Sterling family from now on. He solemnly promised me in front of the ruins of Qingfeng Temple. Also, I have established a charitable foundation in your name, specifically to help orphans like Noah. I looked at him and suddenly laughed. Mr. Julian, you've made a good calculation. I used 10 years of my life to save your grandmother, and you repay my favor with money. However you look at it, you're the one who benefits. Therefore, I plan to repay you with my whole life. Julian looked at me, his eyes burning. I was stunned. Was he confessing to me? The change in tone was faster than me flipping a book. Master Serafina, I know this request is very abrupt. He rubbed his hands nervously. But I'm serious. I don't care about your past, and I don't care how long you can live. I just want to spend the rest of my days with you, take care of you, and watch the children grow up with you. I looked into his sincere eyes and remained silent for a long time. Finally, I shook my head. Julian, my heart died in the great fire of Qingfeng Temple in my previous life. The current me is just a walking corpse living for revenge. My world is full of hatred, not love. I thought he would be disappointed, would give up. But he smiled. It doesn't matter. If your heart is dead, I'll help you warm it back to life. If your world is full of hatred, then I'll hate with you. One day, I will show you that besides hatred, there are many beautiful things in this world. Like the chirping of birds in the morning, and the sunset in the evening. Like the innocent smiles of children, and a bowl of hot tangyuan in winter. Later, Julian really did it. He used all his patience and tenderness to pull me out of the quagmire of hatred, bit by bit. He accompanied me to rebuild the Taoist temple, accompanied me to teach the children, and accompanied me to travel all over the famous mountains and rivers. The years of my life that were lost did not cause me to die quickly, because Julian used half of his family's fortune to seek a 1,000-year-old snow lotus for me, extending my life. He said this was his repayment to me. He said he wanted a long, long future with me. Many years later, when I was also gray-haired, being supported by him, sitting in the courtyard of Qingfeng Temple, watching the disciples and grandchildren filling the yard, I finally understood. It turns out that the meaning of being reborn is not for revenge, but to meet that right person again.